In order to get something, you need to do something first. The child does not have a proper way to speak, use a sign, use a picture, or any way to communicate.
And then we start to go whining, and then start to kicking, and then to throwing, and then to biting. All the tools in the child pocket, the behavior just start to escalate. Welcome to Parent Empowerment Coaching. I'm your host, Dr. Chen. Hi, Michael.
Hello, Dr. Chen.
It's good to do another episode together. And today we'll talk about contingent access, a very, very fancy term. And then if you're the first time listening to our podcast or you're a returning friend, and this episode is for you, we'll break down what contingent access is, and then we'll walk you through about different strategies you can use that can reduce tantrum and help with communication and help your little one to be more independent. Michael, let's talk about what is contingent access. And I think a lot of parents have never heard of that term before.
We like to start with definitions. And so I think the simplified version is in order to get something, you need to do something first. So really think about the if then, or in order to get B, you need to do A first. I think is a simple way to look at this. The reasons why it's important is it really allows the simplest way for a person to get what they want.
I can see parents being so overwhelmed about the behavior. A child maybe have a meltdown for an hour, just saying, you know what, I'm just gonna give whatever my child need. I just really feel so stressed out, and I'm worried about my child who cried for the past an hour. Why it is so important for parents to have this rule, first something and then rewards or something preferred by a child?
So the reason why is when a child does not have proper contingent access, they really do not know how to get the things they want in the environment. So really, it's the broken contingent access that really can cause a lot of the behavior. For a lot of kiddos, we did a little polling on Facebook. The most common ways, especially young kids, communicate is the grab and pull. So what they do, they go and they grab mom or dad's hands and they walk them to an area, and then they just kind of like, here, my reinforcer is somewhere in this area. Please figure this out for me, is kind of the common method. So essentially what you see there is the child does not have a proper way to speak, use a sign, use a picture, or any way to communicate. And you can see how that frustration can easily lead to lots of interfering behavior. So that's kind of the first thing, is to recognize this is one of the fundamental layers. If you want a child to communicate, they have to understand the proper way to get access to things. Now, most of our kids use a default way, and that's essentially crying. So for babies, crying is their form of communication. When a baby cries, we know they either are hungry, need to be changed, or uncomfortable. But for a lot of kids who don't develop any additional communication skills, they will still use crying, or they'll use other non-functional or inappropriate behaviors to gain access. So that's why it's contingent access. Instead of having your kid cry to get the milk, it's better for them to say milk, say, give you a picture. And that's why it's important for parents to focus on it. So it's kind of one of those little things that we just kind of try to bypass. And we want to teach the communication skill at the top, but we want to make sure that a kid goes just from, I do this, I get this, versus what we see a lot of kids do. So they're leading hands, or they'll do lots of behaviors because they really don't know how to get access to, we'll use the cookie as an example for today. They don't know how to get the cookie. So they're going to lead your hand sometimes. Sometimes they're going to hit themselves. Sometimes they're going to flop to the ground because they really don't know which one gets them the cookie. The quicker they understand what gets them the cookie, then they'll use that consistently. Because as humans, we just want to get what we want as fast as possible. And contingent access is the cleanest path to make that happen.
It sounded like contingent access simplifies the environment a lot for a child. instead of trying to like guess, should I cry? Should I hit? Should I kick? Should I grab mommy dad's hand? Should I, like do all sorts of things to get what I needed? And now it's really simple. If you just say, or do a little sign, or even pat your chest, mom, dad know, oh, you need open the fridge. Okay. Or even a picture. Would you say like give mom and dad a picture of milk and get what child needs?
Yes. And so we see what happens when a child doesn't have this. We call it scrolling. So if you go a child and you say, what do you want? It almost looks like for people who play baseball, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this. They literally don't know. So they're hoping that one of these gets them access to the cookie. And that's where they'll have the meltdown or the tantrum right afterwards. So you're correct. It's really having that streamline from A to B that really, really gets that kid to not feel uncertain. Because ultimately, that's what it is. I really want something, I'm uncertain how to get it, is always going to put a child in a place where more behavior will occur.
I have a question though. Like, you have worked with many, many parents for the past 20 some years. Michael, have you seen any misconceptions parents might have when you talk about first and then? Seems this is a rule-based strategy. First, you have to do this, and then you have a milk. Do you see any misconceptions or pushback from parents?
So I think the biggest misconception is trying to bribe a child. And so I think it's to define what is a bribe versus what is contingent access. So a bribe is holding the item almost like, holding, all right, this is what you're working for. Now do this activity in order to get it. So essentially it is bribe, then here's a contingency, and then you get what you want. So it's still kind of an A, B, C. Why that is not the most effective is the child will only work hard enough to then get access to what they need. That's the kind of misconception. We're not talking about how to bribe a child or that 100% of things need to be contingent. There's a whole other non-contingent ways. So they're to be comfortable, to be fed, those are all non-contingent. So by all means, a child does not have to ask for every single thing in their environment. But if you want your child to be a communicator, there needs to be certain things that they need to request. So that's why a cookie is a good example. There's no nutrition in there. So that's not going to be the thing that's going to keep them full. So that allows you to actually build the communication skills. So that's kind of a bribery-based way to look at things. So let's talk with, I guess, a good, clean sense of contingent access. Now, they may still want something, but it's for them to do the first step. And in this case, the first step is communication. So they don't have to do a task or they don't have to go and do all these different things. They just need to have a clear communication attempt. And then the item shows up, teaches a child the importance of the communication, not just how to get access. Because we'll see a lot of kids, as soon as they see the bribe, they actually don't remember how they got it. And when this version, when they just initiate the or the cookie, the k, and then, oh, you want cookie, and then instantly they get the cookie, now the brain goes, it was the k that got me the cookie versus this kind of, fake motivation to get whatever access. I think that is a subtle difference, but very important to the brain to repeat the behavior that you want, which is the K for cookie.
Which is so beautiful. Like, I think about the scrolling you mentioned. The kids will go start with grab mom and dad's hand, and then mom and dad trying to guess what the child needs. And then we start to go whining, and then start to kicking, and then to throwing, and then to biting. Like all the tools in a child pocket, the behavior just start to escalate. And then you just really get, I can imagine how tiring this can be. And the parent just like, okay, you don't want a cookie. What else do you want? You want a milk? Okay, you want your Thomas train? And then we just reinforce that behavior big time because when the time you give the Thomas train, probably that child was kicking and biting and self-injury. Those behaviors are so severe that really impact a child quality of life and mom and dad's their quality of life as well. And in the contingent access, it sounded like we teach a child to figure out, I don't have to do all of those. I just really have to use my words and then use my picture a way I can communicate to mom and dad what I need.
Thanks for watching. Are you ready for support? Look in the description below to book a free consultation call. We also have free downloadables from parent empowerment coaching and our quest to help parents fight for 15 minutes. Stay empowered, stay informed. We'll talk again soon.